It's time for Access the Experts from the University of Nebraska at Omaha with your host, Brandon Axamit.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Access the Experts on News Channel Nebraska, where every Tuesday and Thursday, the University of Nebraska at Omaha faculty members answer today's questions facing our state. Now today we have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Austin Doctor, who is an assistant professor of political science at UNO. So Doctor, today's question is, what does the war in Ukraine tell us about the nature of modern warfare?
Thanks so much for that question, Brandon. To start, it's useful to think of the conflict in Ukraine as being nested within Russia's broader ambitions to advance its position in global and regional affairs, and importantly, at the expense of its perceived main opponent, the United States. That means that we should expect that as Russia oversees a ground war against Ukrainian forces, that it will simultaneously engage the U.S. and its NATO allies in more subversive ways. And so, with respect to modern warfare, two items in particular should be on our radar. First, warfare is changing, both in how it's imagined and how it's executed. As United States defense priorities pivot to state-based, pure competition, we should keep in mind that war between states looks different today than it did in World War II or the Gulf War. What we refer to as irregular warfare, ironically, is the growing norm. While conventional wars still occasionally break out between states, and we're seeing that in Ukraine right now, hostile competition is increasingly scoped to include a broader struggle to influence populations. Rather than tank maneuvers or airstrikes, this style of engagement involves indirect approaches, which shape the information environment and other population arenas of competition. Common tools of irregular warfare include paramilitary forces, cyber operations, election manipulation, and unconventional warfare. All of these are used with the aim of exerting influence and exploiting economic and political vulnerabilities of target societies. A second important takeaway is that despite its powerful military capabilities, the United States and its allies in NATO remain vulnerable to this form of hostile competition. With the world focused on Ukraine, this is an optimal time for Russia to coerce NATO and American leadership by undermining national resiliency and stabilization at home. Cyber operations, for example, are well suited to this task, and this falls right into Russia's wheelhouse. Over the past several years, Russia-sponsored actors have systematically used cyber operations to probe and target U.S. critical infrastructure. In fact, the groundwork for upcoming attacks may have been plotted months ago, with the embedding of harmful code that will unfold against targeted individuals, organizations, or sectors. These are exactly the kinds of issues that we're evaluating at the National Counterterrorism, Innovation, Technology, and Education Center, or INSIGHT, a Department of Homeland Security Center of Excellence located here in Nebraska at UNO. As part of that work, our team takes an interdisciplinary approach to identify and assess emerging threats to national security. The conflict in Ukraine embodies the complexity of today's threat environment. Because of the changing nature of modern warfare, this crisis will likely carry important implications for stability here at home.
Thank you, Doctor, for sharing your expertise on the topic. Now, for our viewers at home, we want you to interact with UNO's experts, so if you have a question you want answered, submit it at newschannelnebraska.com.
Access the Experts, presented by the University of Nebraska at Omaha. If you have questions, submit them on our website and join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:46 a.m. while we answer your questions.